Welcome back, everyone, to Talent Skill Tree, episode 11. I have Andrea Bensussen here. Welcome to the show, Andrea. How's it going?
Thanks. Happy Friday. I've been having an awesome day. Just came back from yoga, so I feel like my body, my mind, and my soul needed it. So it's nice.
To get a recharge this Friday, that something that probably we should all incorporate in our daily life struggle here. But I'm excited to have you on the show here, Andrea. And I know that we talked before we actually recorded this show. We kind of run the same circles. We commented on each other's stuff. And we kind of messaged each other because we live kind of close by. I'm from your old hometown in San Diego, and you're currently up north. So, we're in the same atmosphere, the same circles, and the same industries. But I want to say I was really impressed. I said this before to you before, that you're a triple threat. I didn't even know where to begin. I looked at your profile and your background and in gaming and entertainment and Web3. Have a lot of different specialties: an actress, a film producer, a project manager, marketing, a game enthusiast, a game producer, a social media star with over 89,000 on TikTok, photographer even,
I sound crazy.
No, it sounds amazing. Where do you find the time?
That's my problem.
We were just talking about that time too as well. But just give us, if you don't mind, just sharing with the audience, what has been your life journey all about? What is your passion? And just tell us what does Andrea stand for?
Oh yeah. So do you want like a 2-minute quick story or
Go for it.
Okay, I'm gonna try to be like giving you the beats. So let's say as a kid, I had social anxiety. My dad had social anxiety. My mom saw that I had that and was like deathly intimidated by like any kind of stranger who would approach me, right? And she saw that this could be a problem. So she said, off to dance class you go. And it was really terrifying, but it's something that I needed. And it's something that I ended up growing to love because I felt that dance provided like a source or a way to express yourself or to be someone else or to get the courage to be on stage and just be a character and have the courage to do that, right? Because you're like, I'm not me, I'm someone else. So it's a lot easier to do that when you are someone else. And from there, I just really fell in love with storytelling. And when I dance, it's especially with modern dance, it's really about your mind, your body, and your soul connecting with the music and telling a story, conveying a story. So from that dance, I ended up really loving, and my dad told me, he's like, you need an art credit, right? Why don't you just go take a theater class? And I was like, theater? I can't talk on stage. I can dance. I can't talk. Well, you need a credit anyway for art. Why don't you just go take it? And I was like, oh, fine, I'll go take it. He still doesn't remember that he probably changed my life.
Oh, wow.
He still doesn't remember because he's like, I tell you to do lots of things you don't do. But I did it. I told you, Dad. I said I did it. From there, very awkward feeling to project and to be outside of your body. Anyway, I ended up really falling in love with theater. I ended up going into TV, commercials, film after that. Doing promotions supported my work as an actor and a producer while I was also going to university at the same time. So doing promotions was also a fun way to go to all different places like Comic-Con, Coachella, Kaboo. And a lot of times you're like in the VIP section and you're experiencing this for free and you're getting the giveaways also. And it was like, oh, this is so cool. And I can make my own schedule. And it came to a point where I said, but is it what drives me? Is it what moves me? And is that what I'm truly passionate about? And I said, with actors, what's really interesting about actors is they always say, you need to brand yourself. You need to market yourself. You need to go out and basically be your own PR. And there's really interesting situation. Do you know why an agent, and this isn't, I would say the reason, but an interesting perspective. Do you know why an agent would get 10 to 20% of your work when they book your work?
No.
Because they say that an actor should be doing the other 80 to 90% of the work. They do have so many other talent. They might have 300 people that they're juggling. And you have to be the person with the grit. You have to be hungry to put yourself out there. You have to be hungry to applying to gigs and constantly doing the work to be somewhere else, right? To be better, to move your career forward. And that just was very addicting to me. I continued doing that. And I guess to say the story, and I'll let you ask questions, but I know like I'm telling the life story here.
No,
It became, what can I do to support my career as a storyteller? And how can I truly be an actor and a producer? And something was very interesting. I actually watched a variety, I'm forgetting the name. I think it was Vanity Fair interview with Jenna Ortega and Elle Fanning. And they both, who are in their 20s, who have been child actors, they said, you know, at this point in my life, I'm interested in producing. And they both said the same thing. And I said, why is that? Because actors, a lot of the times, especially when they're growing in their career, they're treated like they're at the bottom of the totem pole. Dance monkey, faster, harder, stronger, you know, and they don't even check in on you. I've had sets where I was probably working 15 hours a day and they didn't have any food and I had to go buy my food.
wow.
I almost got hypothermia because of it. And I said, no more. Like, I'm done with this crap. I'm done with people being able to control my life and I want some agency back. And both those girls said the same. They said, isn't it interesting for the work that we all collaborated in different movies or shows? It was so much better. And they said, yeah, that's where I can play as an actor. And they said, don't you think it's funny when some directors or producers are so strict and so refined and so like constrained that they think they know your body a little bit better than you do? And it's like, no, like, you know your body the best that you do, right? So that was a big turning point for me, is how do you create your own path, your own career, and not let anyone take out your light? You are head force, like the train going up the hill and no one's going to stop you. And that's when I really discovered to becoming an influencer, to working with a Web3 environment, gaming environment, to producing my own TV show, to, you know, working as being an influencer, right? It's like putting all the eggs to see which of the eggs hatch into the chickens, right?
And that's a lot of chickens, right? Yeah.
So that's kind of the struggle of actors, is that they have to constantly put themselves in a million different places, what works. And that's, I guess you could say, my life story.
Yeah, and there's so much there that you have not shared, but you know, if you haven't seen your LinkedIn profile or any type of your credentials, you do a lot of work, and it's impressive. And so you mentioned a couple of different things that stuck out with me. You mentioned about branding, which I think most of us can all relate, is how do you break out of that mold than being associated with your employer or being associated with the type of work you do? How do you self-brand and, you know, get out of that shell here? And that also goes hand in hand with your passion and your drive, because you mentioned passion a couple of times. You know, it doesn't drive me, it's not my passion. So what is your passion?
Storytelling is such a big passion of mine that I've experienced. Interestingly, I'm having a lot of recent, I don't know if you would say life changes or epiphanies, but it's like lots of things that happen all at one time and you're like, right? So one of the things that's really interesting about storytelling, especially as a dancer, they say, think that every single movement is intentional. Think every single eye look, every movement, every step, everything should be, every muscle in your body is a part of your story. And I incorporated that into acting. And it's really interesting to see dancers who act, right? Who've grown from that background, and then they're transitioning into there, because it's a different type of actor. It's an actor who creates a lot of beats. And within those beats, you are being a storyteller, right? It's about how do we have this journey together? How do I express myself? And I guess you could say it's about joining the journey with me. Oh, can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
It was the most complimentary thing that I could say as a storyteller, as a producer, as a writer, that I actually won my first film that I ever produced. I was 19. I could do this. Yeah, I guess I did. But, you know, it was a lot of a bigger project than I imagined. I actually ended up winning a couple of different film festivals where they invited me to go to the premiere, right? And when I'm like watching my film in the big screen, and I just said, wow, this is a step, right? And it's just this amazement, this feeling of like, not that I the pain, the suffering, the art, like all of it, the experience, and you're just watching it all into one, right? It's just, I don't even know how to explain it. That's the best I could. But the fact that one woman behind me, in one of the scenes, I could hear her crying behind me. And it didn't really strike me of like, oh, I mean, that was my intention to make people feel, but it's like the most complimentary thing for an artist to hear that I moved someone in that way. Because that's how I felt. That's how I felt. And I wanted them to feel that way. Right. So I feel like I succeeded with my storytelling, which, yeah, I guess I'll pass the mic to you.
No, I mean, I was just going to say, that's a great story, because I can relate to as well, is what drives you, what is your purpose, what completes your soul or journey, as you like to say. And those moments are key. And you mentioned before, when you were just taking it all in, just noticing how it can change people's lives, how emotional it is. All that is there. And that's what I love about in this business. I'm in the gaming business, and you're obviously in all the businesses, because I didn't even know that you were a dancer. I just added that to my list, by the way. I'm like, oh, here we go, another one. So a dancer. But no, going back to the dancers who did transition to acting and then went so much further, Julianne Hough is like the first person that I thought of. She was on Dancing with the Stars, and then she starred in Nicholas Sparks, Safe Harbor movie. I believe that's what it is. Nicholas Sparks is one of my favorite authors, by the way. And then you have people like Ryan Seacrest and Mario Lopez, who are triple threats as well. So you're in that same category, which is inspiring.
I really love that. I appreciate that.
To a lot of people, because some people struggle finding one niche, and what you're doing is you're immersing yourself in all these different niches. And so can you tell me about that? So what is the reason behind dipping your feet, so to speak, in the waters of different beaches, right? You have in Hawaii beach that you dip your feet in the water. Now Florida, like, do you have a purpose, or are you just experimenting? Like, what's the journey like? Walk us through.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a self journey of who is Andrea and what does she love to do, and why can't I do it all? Why can't I be Superwoman? But I think at the end of the day, it's funny, because that's the bright side. I've had one of the biggest compliments that someone's called me a Swiss Army knife. And I think that's the biggest compliment that I could ever receive. But there's a bad, or how do you say, a con to that, is you put yourself in too many places, you're spreading yourself out too thin. I guess I'm prone to panic attacks because of that. And I never really knew that until I was an adult. And it's about balance. And I'm still even figuring out what balance is because it's wanting to do so much and seeing so many opportunities, but being able to also say no, or like, hey, how about next week? And I had the hardest time doing that for the longest time, because I'm such a people pleaser. And I would think, if I don't say yes now, they're not going to want me to do the gig and right? So again, I think producing gave me that strength and the backbone to say, no, I have other obligations, where acting didn't. Acting was always dance, monkey, dance, and dancing also. Dance, monkey, dance.
It's that song.
I think, especially with my show that I'm producing as well, one of the things, yes, I'm also, where is she? There she is. I'm writing a TV show about Lilith, and that's in hopes of conquering your inner demons and, finding self-love and having strength within yourself and telling yourself, can I cuss on this show? I should have asked that.
Go for it.
To say, like, I am so fucking proud of you, because we don't tell ourselves that enough. And I don't even think I've ever told myself that until recently. And I realized I was like, I'm always doing this rat race, but is it fulfilling me? Am I finally happy with what I'm doing? And I feel like I'm finally on the right track. Something's happening, right? I'm seeing the eggs hatch. I'm seeing some eggs or chickens, the pollos. But yeah, I think to answer your question is why am I spreading myself everywhere? I think it just started because actors have always felt that they had to. And I don't know if that's also because of the pressure to put yourself in a million different places, to seeing what opportunities hatch, but it's also like, at this point, I'm selective. I've selected the things that make me happy. I've always been a gamer at heart. I love games. From using a GameCube to a Game Boy to, finally getting my own PC. And I'm like, oh, I'm an adult. I could get a PC. I can't even say it. Picker. But, I think at the end of the day, it's finally deciding what makes you happy and what makes you fulfilled. And again, and I'm still doing the juggling, right? But with the Drea show, that's an opportunity to talk about all of these elements of TV, film, dance, right? And maybe help others who are trying to get into the industry, or help others who have gone with anxiety like myself, of putting yourself in too many places and feeling like you're going to fail. Because, and this is a quote that's really interesting, that I think there's people who said this, but they haven't actually put this together. So that, I guess this could be my documented quote: failure and fear are best friends. And that hit me really hard when I thought about that. And I said, what scares us more is failure, right? Is not being able to make a deadline, not making people happy, not being able to succeed at something that we're striving to do, right? If we attack things without fear, and we attack it head on, and we have a plan, and we're very strategic, and we write things down, because I'm less stressed out when I write it down, right? So I think it's just understanding of how to pace yourself and getting help when you need it. I never asked for help. I always have people asking me for help, and I always hated to ask for help. And I think that's the people pleaser in me, of saying like, I have a cake, I'm a cake. This is I also, this is another epiphany that recently came. I'm a cake, right? I give everyone a slice of my cake, where I'm left with crumbs at the end of the day, and I'm the crumbs. And that was a big realization to me of like, I'm doing too much, like crazy Andrea doing too much again, right? But it's to chase a dream, it's this long cycle. So I guess, I don't know if I answered your question.
No, that's okay. And I think you hit a lot of great points. Fear definitely is what stops a lot of people from evolving as human beings. I even wrote a post about that with the Spider-Man quote of Miles Morales. And it's just taking that leap of faith.
Yeah.
Believe in yourself. And you said it best. Why can't we do it all? Why can't, and I love that quote from you, because why can't we do it all? Why can't we be in gaming? Why can't we be in entertainment? Why can't we produce our own show? Why can't we be an actor, an actress? There's nothing stopping us except fear itself. So you hit that perfectly. And I just wanted to just kind of highlight some things. And it's worked out great for your journey, because I mentioned before, you hit 89,000 on TikTok, which I love. When I saw your clips, you did a couple Jenny Ortega cosplays, or whatever you want to call them, snippets there. So you're doing a great job there. But like I mentioned before, you were also a photographer, game producer, actress, starred in a Netflix TV series. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. Ingobernable.
Oh yeah, I was featured in an episode of Ingobernable, also
Ingobernable. Oh, I totally butcher that.
It's a mouthful, but it was actually filmed in San Diego, which was such a coincidence.
Yeah,
but
that's cool.
Also, this is a note that maybe would help people. I got that gig because I had an acting coach who had someone reach out, say, hey, we need girls for the scene. And so she reached out to me and said, hey, Andrea, are you free tomorrow, right, to film? And I said, absolutely. And then she said, do you have any friends that you want to bring along? I was like, okay, I'm going to get my friends a gig. Cool. I'll bring them along. Yeah, sure. I think I brought like 4 or 5 girls on set. I was recruiting basically, right? And it was so funny, right?
Right.
And so we were there, and they said, who's the girl that brought all these women here? And I was like, and they're like, okay, you got a featured role. It's like, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting anything really. So I feel like it's giving help as much as you can, and amazing things will happen just out of people showing their appreciation for you. And it's just helping out of the kindness, but not expecting anything in return, right? Like the quid pro quo, right?
Not expecting results.
It should just come out of, which is it's always hard in the industry, because sometimes people take advantage of that. But I feel like if I know what my limits are and I'm helping out of whatever my capacity is, then it should be okay, right? But there are times where I overhelp and I'm left with crumbs. So that's the conflict.
Right. Going back to the cake theory,
Yeah.
spreading yourself too thin and overhelping. But as you mentioned, just keep being a powerful driving force moving forward, and eventually things will fall into place. Whether you think about it or not, it's going to happen. And so
Yeah.
the quote that I love is a physics quote, I want to say, or a scientific quote. A body in motion stays in motion, right?
Yep.
So if you're not moving forward, nothing's going to happen. And so you're a perfect example of that. Going to other notable things that you've done, you also done a Paris Hilton campaign.
Yeah.
What's that all? What's the Paris Hilton campaign about?
It's funny. I've actually worked with her company at Gala, where we were basically creating her NFTs into music videos and then attaching other IRL utility, right? And it just so happened after that I wasn't working with them anymore, that I added everyone from her company from 1111, right? And it just so happened that, I found her husband, who was also part of the connections or whatever. And he posted, "Hey guys, there's an opportunity to be in New York Times. I'm supporting my wife," right? And he said, "This is awesome," right? And he's such an awesome guy. Like, I always see him supporting her. And it's like, that's what you need for someone who works in the industry, is to have that support and someone who's grounded, because you cannot succeed without that. And if someone who also sabotages your work, right? It's like an anchor as opposed to like a ladder, right? You don't want an anchor, you want a ladder, right? And he's 3 ladders. What I just see online. I haven't even met the guy, right? But he posted the opportunity. I submitted my video, and it was for "This Is Who I Am," which is really interesting that all of this has been coming together really recently. But it's like acceptance for who you are and being happy with who you are. And that's what Paris, and talking really vulnerably about herself and, either her shortcomings, but really spilling her heart out in her novel. And that's what the whole campaign was about. This is who I am. And it's just beautiful. I think it was just such an awesome opportunity, and keep seeing her work after, 2 decades from her show coming out. And it's loved how she's transformed herself into who she is now. I think it's such a beautiful journey.
Yeah, I actually just watched her new show, the cooking show.
Yeah.
Cook with Paris. And I love that message, because this is who I am, and you shouldn't care about what other people think about you.
Yeah.
The book that how not to give a fuck about what anyone thinks. I'm probably butchering that book right now, but
I love that title.
yeah. But going back to the message is absolutely inspiring, and I love that she's able to be herself. And with the cooking show, she right off the bat says, "I am not a cook. I am not the smartest cookie in the room, but I'm going to do this show, and I'm going to show you that I can cook." So I love that. I love that message. I love anything inspiring.
At the end of the day, it's about trying, which not everyone tries. They say, "I can't do that. I would love to, but I can't do it." But they never tried. They never even took a class. They just put themselves in a box, right? And I think that's trying. She does everything, it's like she's multi-talented. I mean, she even is, trying to focus on singing too. And I remember one point in time, she's like, "I'm trying it out and I want to do it and I like to do it." And now she's like DJing too. So I think, it's a lot of self-growth, and it's awesome to see over the years too, being part of her journey.
Yeah. Everyone's journey is special in their own way, and unique as well.
Yeah.
And well, speaking of inspiration, another topic that I wanted to bring up, because it holds dear to my industry.
Yeah.
I see that you're an ambassador and host and moderator for Women in Games.
Yeah.
How's that working with that organization been for you?
Yeah, I've loved working. I've worked with a couple of different ones, like Women in Games International and Women in Games. And, I love that they have a foundation of how to strengthen it's like, how do we bring education to women so they're not afraid to even apply for jobs in the gaming industry? so they can speak up, right? It's about giving them courage, giving perspective, giving them strength. And, it's awesome to have a community where you can talk to other people too. And, I've just loved being a part of it because it's something that I wish I had as a kid, right? And there's so many opportunities that we're growing with now as adults. And, it's just amazing to be a part of it, right? It's like changing the world one step at a time, and a lot of women, I think they say actually it's like 40% or 50, it's somewhere between there, are female gamers now. So why is it still a male dominated industry? Because a lot of women are also just afraid to get into it, like they think they can't do it. They already put themselves in the box, right? So if you can think I'm one of the guys, I'm tough enough to be one of the guys, then that's also kind of what we teach them is like, you're as strong as you believe you are. So think you're one of the guys.
Or think like Andrea and say, why not? I can do everything.
Yeah.
Right. I can do it all. I can do it all.
It wasn't always like that though. I had a lot of pep talk up here, a lot of positive pep talk, all of these.
That reminds me, there's this really inspirational video. And I definitely believe it. I call it the jet fighter mentality. And I talked about this in my previous shows, my previous posts, is always having that jet fighter mindset. But it reminds me of this video of a little girl, and she's a skater, and she has a little cute little hat on, helmet on, and she's about to go down a half pipe for the first time. And she must be like 7 years old. Okay.
I think I saw that.
And the message is that she kept saying, "You got this, Sky. You can do it, Sky." Her name is Sky. "You got this. You can do it. You got." She did a cadence and just kept telling herself, "You got this. You can do it." She went down the first time, slid. It must have took a couple takes, but by the third try, she did it. And most people just look at it like, "Oh, she did it," but I looked at it as she was hyping herself up, and she was getting in that mindset. I can do this. And going back to what you said earlier was the biggest step is making sure you take that first leap and that first overcoming your fear obstacle and just doing it, right? So you just have to do it. So I love that.
Yeah, to piggyback off of what you said, I've also struggled with, having ADD, OCD, and they have also kind of a combination between the two. But analysis paralysis is one of arch nemesis. Arch nemesis. But it's wanting to have everything perfect and being so afraid to start wrong and having to redo everything again. And it's like you spend more time in your head being like, what is the way? What is the way? This is the way. And you spend so much time just doing, what should I do? What should I do? Instead of actually doing it and then figuring it out would have been a lot faster. Just put it on paper, put a Google Doc, put it on an Excel sheet, start drawing, whatever it is, just get it out of your body, because a lot of times it's just so much stressful to have it in here, right? And you can even see, like, I carry a lot of my stress here. I notice myself too, and I'm learning this in yoga and meditation. It's like, I carry so much stress here that I'll be typing like this. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, I didn't even know how high my shoulders were. Right. And so much of it goes into the anxiety, right? So it's chasing your dream, being positive, and also treating your body and your mind and your soul right, because you can't do that without the three in, collaboration, right? It's, oh my God, this is a really interesting thing that I feel like I taught myself things just because they come to my head and I'm learning other things at the same time. But imagine like the triangle, right? Let me see this triangle. So the triangle is 8 hours of the day is, what you would be eating, right? Like maybe you eat from 10 to 8, right? 8 hours, however your 8 hours is. You either munch or you have meals, but normally people should eat between this time frame, right? Sleeping probably 8 hours would be healthy, right? And then the other part is, how are you active in the day of those 8 hours? And if one of them is, you don't have a triangle, right? Or if it's broken or like lopsided, right? You don't have your equilibrium of your triangle. And then you'll notice that. You'll notice that you're tense or you're stressed out or you have bags under your eyes. Like I can see mine right now. So it's if you can meet that, you're like, you know, in one with yourself, right? But even that is hard to have. Like, I don't have time to make a meal. I don't have time to sleep. I don't have time for this. No. But your body and you have to make time for yourself, because no one else will. No one else will look out for you other than yourself, right? So you have to make sure that that's okay before you can even take care of anything else, really. So yeah, it was interesting. And I was like, oh my God, it's a perfect 8, like 24 hours, 8, right? So yeah, it's trying to focus on that to be the perfect 24.
I didn't even think about that. It is perfect 8.
It's weird, right? And it just occurred to me the other day. I was like, wait, you work at a job for 8 hours, you know, or 9 or 10, whatever. And then you're eating for the 8, and then you're sleeping for the 8, right? And so it's just, yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, you got to have the perfect triangle. As in the gaming world, you got to be linked, trying to connect your Triforce and collect all those pieces to get your Triforce.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're missing a piece, you're not going to be as strong as it is in Endgame.
Yeah.
Sorry for my little nerdy side bit.
How about like a boomerang?
Yeah, that too. Paralysis over analysis. So we have that too. In this business, we call it ripping off the Band-Aid.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people do struggle with paralysis over analysis. In the recruiting world, I would always get fearful of calling candidates and say you're turned down.
Yeah.
And I would beat myself up over it. I would overthink of what should I say.
Yeah.
And I remember my manager used those exact terms.
Yeah.
It's paralysis over analysis. Just rip off the Band-Aid.
Yep.
And the sooner you do it, the sooner you can move on.
Yep.
And so
the pain, you're torturing yourself longer.
Yeah, you do torture yourself the longer you prolong things.
Yes.
And so I definitely can feel you on that message of paralysis over analysis, because I think we all experience that, regardless of industry.
Yeah. Totally.
Well, going back to the industry.
Yeah.
You mentioned you're a Swiss knife. I mentioned you're a red mage because you're in all the spells.
I love that. Thank you.
I do a lot of gaming analogies. Sorry.
Yeah. I have to write that down.
Which, by the way, red mage is one of the cosplays that I've always wanted to do. So if all my personal friends know this about me, my favorite color is red.
Yeah.
And red mage is, I've always wanted to do a cosplay in red mage. But going back, no, I'm not going to do it at BlizzCon. No, my coworkers are there.
I think you're really brave.
Maybe I'll do it at like a cosplay con or something.
One of your coworkers does it all the time, and I'm forgetting his name, but he makes his costumes, like even the nose is like exact. Do you remember? He always posted on LinkedIn.
Yeah, you're talking about, he does like he's the dwarf.
Yeah.
And his wife actually does it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very known. And I actually just interviewed Sarah McMunn, our IT specialist here. She does a lot of cosplay. She's featured in a lot of our BlizzCon features. Yeah, so she does her own, handmade materials and everything too. And I love that. Type of person, I'll just buy it off of Etsy and let someone else commission it, and I'll just wear the costume. But I want to go back to the industry. I feel like a lot of people can gain some insight from this. What myths or what are those obstacles? Because we mentioned obstacles before. Definitely. Would you say that people might be holding them back and that you can debunk?
With just in the entertainment industry as a whole?
Any industry, you are in all three. You're in gaming, you're in entertainment. Which I actually think gaming and entertainment actually are kind of the same industry.
There's a few things. One thing for sure is, people always think that you have to do this path, right? Like, I mean, especially let's say for actors, right? I have to take an acting class, and then I have to go to audition. Then I have to, take a master class, and then I have to do headshots, and I have to have Actors Access and Casting Frontier and LA Casting. It's like, I have to now pay for SAG fees and dues. It's like this trail that they tell you have to do in order to be successful. And it's been ingrained in our brains since you get into the industry that you have to follow all the rules. I mean, even I was one time, I'll tell you, one time I had my, there's different styles that a headshot and resume will change over the years. So at this point, this style was to have your headshot and your resume printed one side and the other, and it's stapled on the top and stapled on the bottom, and it's centered. It has to be like that. It can't be like the two corners here, right? or the four corners. So what I did, I was like, oh, well, I'll save paper and I'll print it one side and I'll print it on the other side. And I don't even have to use staples and I don't even paper. And he goes, this, you're handing me this? It's not industry standard. So, yeah, like I literally got chewed out for not having the right format. And it's like, it's not very encouraging. He didn't even give me the time of day to see my audition because it was all already over from a piece of paper. So it's, I think learning now, creating all of these different baskets is because I have now taken the opportunity to take more agency with my work, to not go in the rat race of cattle calls where there's 1,000 women who look like me and we're all standing around doing an audition, right? Or waiting to audition and hopefully there's time for us because they're going to close it at 5. It's trying to get out of the rat race and creating your own path and your own journey and seeing that, they might be telling you that this is the way, but there are so many other ways now. Like I'm writing a TV show in hopes to sell it, right? Like that's an actor turned into producer writer. And that was never a thing 30 years ago. You were an actor, you were an actor, you were a producer, right? But now I'm seeing like so many actors who have side businesses, or they're an influencer, or they have a YouTube channel, or they have a cooking channel, or they have a clothing brand, right? So I think there's not always one way. It's just what way works for you. And what way is a way that makes you feel happy and doesn't overwhelm you. But I think that's a big thing. It's like, actors have to go through this rat race and pay thousands of dollars every year just to keep their profile up on Actors Access and IMDb Pro. So there are other ways though, like lots of people have gotten famous over TikTok, right? They didn't pay for anything. So I think that there are different ways. And we've been really blessed with the technology that we have, that we now do self-tapes. I can submit a self-tape, which is, recording virtually. I send it in as an audition and I don't have to be waiting 4 or 5 hours in line. And I don't have to make an appointment time. I do it on my own time. It's due this time. So yeah, I think that that's a theory, that there's not always one way. There's always other ways. Just finding the way that makes you happy.
Right. There's no one shoe that fits all.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting about the staples. I didn't know about that. But
Yeah.
you're making the best use of your time. And I
Not
find
always though.
that very encouraging. Well, as you mentioned, if you find an obstacle, there's other options that you have. So having those different options. And I love that about you, because Swiss Army knife, red mage, you'd have all these options and you kind of make it your own playground. It's like, well, I can pick this, I can pick this. There's a actor, I forgot his full name, but he plays Hook.
Oh, in the original Hook with Robin Williams?
Yes, he was Rufio.
Oh, yeah.
Dante Bosco. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And so with Dante Bosco, he does this thing on TikTok where he has residual checks come in and he calls it residual checks lottery. And as you know, as an actress, you get residual checks for every time your show gets played on TV. And so he can range anywhere between $5 to $100. And what he will do is pick an envelope and say, okay, what am I going to eat tonight? Because, or it can be more than $100, it can be like 1,000. Yeah. And he's like, am I going to eat a lobster dinner for $50 or am I going to eat Taco Bell at $5? And so I think that with your journey, like you have that amazing experience too, where you can be like, okay, well, what am I going to do here this weekend? Well, I can do an actor's gig, or I can do this. So that leads me, because and again, I'm having a blast just talking with you, and we were talking about feature stuff going on here. So that leaves me with my last question here, Andrea, is what's next for Andrea? What do you have planned in the future, and what are you excited to get into?
Very interesting. There's a few things I'm also juggling, like I'm always juggling. One of the two things is I have a contract that's ending for my Web3 gaming job. So I will look for a replacement for that. The next thing is I'm a VP of marketing at Smart MFG, and I'm also working on hopefully getting them on an episode on Amazon Prime. Someone reached out to me and now we're on step 2. We're on round 2. So I'm like, I'm hoping. So that's one of the things I'm working on, especially with rebranding. The next thing is that, I have my pilot done. I have my pitch deck done. I also have an entertainment lawyer who I've been working real get, also found on LinkedIn. So really use your network to your advantage, because LinkedIn has been such a blessing to have. And so we're working on that's the next step, right? Submitting it to all these different festivals, but also, shop it around. And then the Drea show. So I think 4 things. The Drea show is going to be how, basically what you're doing. And then we'd have other things too, like incorporating it. Have you ever seen Whose Line Is It Anyway, or the Amanda Show back on like Nickelodeon?
Oh, I love the Whose Line Is It Anyway and Amanda Show, both of them.
So it's like a mix of that, but also educational at the same time. So it's like
Yeah.
fun, like improv, and like how do I play an improv game? Like teach me improv, because I think improv changed my life too. I highly recommend anyone who has a fear of public speaking or has to deal with people in any kind of capacity to take an improv class. Because as an actor, my first improv class, I was like, ooh, I had this feeling in my pit of my stomach, like, oh, I hate improv, because there's always the fear of, I have to be funny. Fear, again, remember, fear and failure. I have to be funny. I have to be funny. It's like, no, it's just carrying the scene, letting it go, letting it continue and being natural, right? That's the key, is just having ideas that you keep bouncing off of each other. And sometimes it's okay to be quiet, right? But it's kind of, that's the Drea show. It's going to be a little bit different between like Web3 and gaming. I'll have different playlists, right? So people can kind of tune into what interests them, and how to conquer your inner demons, how to find your voice, how to find your strength, how to find your self-love, because that was a big obstacle for me as a kid, is like this over my shoulder, there she is, gnawing at you and telling you, you can't do it, you're going to fail, blah, blah, blah. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. It's like, you can do it. Remember, like, you can do it. Just try, because you'll never know until you try. You'll never know until you try. So I think those are the things I'm working on.
Oh, and again, just impressed me right there. You're like, I have so many different, like, and that's awesome.
That's why I have to go like this.
Yeah. You're like, what am I working on? Well, let me just choose from my hat here. Yeah. Here we go. But no, I'm excited. I'm excited to watch your journey here. I really can't wait to watch your show, because we were talking before the recording, like different ideas about your show. And I think it's great when people can do, like, that's part of the reason why I do this show, is because there's a lot of questions out there and people who have fears.
Yeah.
And all they need is that slight encouragement, that slight nudge saying, you can do it, Sky, you got this, go down that half pipe. Yep. I think is a message that we can always use. Mm-hmm. We don't ever have enough of. Mm-hmm. And so I can't wait. I'm going to go ahead and put the links and all your information down below, even though I'm still a small podcast myself. And in this business, exposure is exposure. It doesn't matter if it's small or big. But I'm hoping one day we will have a conversation and down the road and seeing where we are have taken us, both of us here. So.
I'll tell you one thing before you leave, is that I recently worked with a 23 million subscriber influencer. And the one thing that they kept saying was consistency. Mm-hmm. Consistency. And if you didn't have a good concept or whatever, it's just like, keep posting, like, don't give up. It's like the grit, and that's the key. Like Mr. Beast too, for 12 years, he was working on this, and you see progress he made over the years. So consistency, grit, you can do it. Yeah. I think that's
consistency, grit, you can do it. And honestly, I just hit that epiphany, believe it or not. I've been in this business for 10 years plus.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of flying by the seat of my
celebrate
pants.
That.
I should. But I've been flying the seat of pants. I've been kind of sporadic, mad scientist kind of way. And I've been noticing that's the trend, and that's the universe calling out to me, is to have a cadence, to be consistent, mm-hmm. just to show up, even if not even worrying about results, but to just show up mm-hmm. is the word and the message that I think people can relate to. So thank you for sharing that. I love that message. I love all of our talks. I wish we could talk more here, but I know you got to get going. It's Friday.
I'll have to do more.
Absolutely. And I hope to be maybe on your show one day. Would love to be a part of it. And
you'll be the first to know.
And the sky's the limit here.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Andrea. I'll put the links below. Please do check her out. She's an amazing triple threat, red mage, Swiss Army knife, whatever. the case
I
may
love
be.
it.
Why can't she do it all? Is her message. She can do it all. And with that message, I like to say my personal message: the world can always use more heroes, and let's level up together, everyone. Bye.